everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to another recommendation video. So today I want to credit this video to my friend Marissa over at Libraries and Labradores. I heard her bring up this topic in one of my live streams saying that she would like more recs for this. And it was really hard to put together, and I hope that I've done like what you're looking for, Melissa, and if not, I tried my best. But I understood what she meant. So she wanted some enemies to lovers recs, but she didn't just mean like some guy pissed you off in school, or it's your brother's best friend who's always been kind of mean to you, or something like that. Like, she meant actual, like, we hate each other, like mortal enemies. So I do have some like fantasy books mixed in with this because I feel like that is the best way to get to that level that you're talking about. I have some Mafia mixed in here. So those kind of situations where it actually is like life or death, the hate. It's not just, oh, we like don't get along and so it's a hate to love, because those are fun, you know, like that's the kind of thing like in the Viscount and I, or the Viscount Who Loved Me, sorry, the Viscount and I, I'm just gonna name all the books, whatever, where there is some dislike between the two people, but it's not like dangerous. So I have some varying levels of this. First, I actually want to start with two like YA books, just because I know not all of you want things to be on the highest level of steam, and I appreciate that because I still love some YA books, right? I still have some that are favorites. So I wanted to start with two of these that have that enemies to lovers that is really like a life and death kind of situation still. So the first one, I don't have the first book with me because my sister has it, but the Serpent and Dove, which this is kind of funny because I saw that Crystal just put up her enemies to lovers, and she also has this on there. So it's just funny, great minds think alike, Crystal, that I was literally about to film this and then I saw your video and I was like, so I haven't watched hers yet, so if we have some crossover, I'm sorry. That's why I wanted to film it first, because I was like, I wanted to show that I liked Untouchable, but whatever. There are plenty of books with tropes that like are gonna overlap because that's how it is. But this one is about a witch and a witch hunter. And I also love that kind of angst. And the thing is that in the first book, right, maybe there's a picture. No, this one doesn't have a picture, but you've seen it around. Serpent and Dove. It kind of looks like this one, but it's black. And Lou is a witch, and Reed Diggory is a witch hunter. And Lou gets caught. And they don't know 100% that she's a witch. They haven't been able to like. Well, maybe they do. They do know that she's a witch, but they aren't just going to kill her. Maybe they don't. They don't, because Reed isn't 100% sure. But he knows that she isn't against witches. So there's that conflict between them, as well as she knows if she slips up, this man could kill her. And so I really, really like this. It also has a virgin hero, which I'm a big fan of virgin heroes, because Reed, the organization that is the witch hunters, is also like a religious organization. It's set up in the story like a little bit like a certain church. I'm not going to call them out because this is a fictional retelling of things about them, but anyway, so they end up married together, and Reed like doesn't know what to make of this. And I really like Reed because I like the way that his mindset changes, and I like that even once these two fall in love, as you'll like see in Blood and Honey, it didn't instantly make things better for them. Like, there is still a struggle going on because they have such opposing ideologies, but they love each other. How do you breach that? And I thought that was really inspiring, and I'm really excited to see what the third one brings, but I want to share this. Then the other YA, which I think you probably saw me grab from up there, is actually, again, I don't have the first one because my friend is borrowing it. But it's Renegades by Marissa Meyer. It's on the back cover. This is the second one, which is literally called Arch Enemies, so it's appropriate to hold it. But this is about kind of a, you know, it's a superhero story. It kind of has like The Boys vibe, except this is not as gruesome as The Boys is. But I really, really enjoyed this series. So this is about the villains, which are called the Anarchists. they have been defeated. And so the Renegades run everything. And it's run by this group that is kind of like the Justice League. These are also super diverse books, by the way, because our hero, he's black, and he has two dads. So the leaders of the Justice League are these two male heroes that are married. And I really liked them. I thought they were really cute. And like his name is Adrian Everhart because his dad's names are Hugh Everhart, and who's kind of like Superman, and then his other dad is like Batman, and it's really it's great. Okay, it's great. But anyway, Nova, at the beginning of this, she is the niece of one of the greatest anarchists that there ever was. And there are these tryouts at the beginning of every so often where they're recruiting new renegades to work with them. And so she goes in undercover to be undercover and try to undermine the renegades from the inside out. And I just really liked it. I thought the story built was very clever. I love Marissa Meyer. So there's just something about, I listen to her books on audio, and she has the same narrator for all of her books, Rebecca Solar. And I just love slipping into a book of hers. And so this has a very slow building romance, so I understand. But also I was satisfied by how it worked out in the end. Especially, again, we have, there's such opposing belief systems of the two of them. And so they couldn't just kiss and make up. Like, they need to solve some issues in their society before they can just be like, yay, we're together. Like, that's not going to work that way, right? Okay, so now let's move on to a couple Mafia recs. And while I do have a couple videos full of Mafia recs, I feel like they are a good example. Oftentimes in those ones, there's a lot of arranged marriages, but there also is a lot of hate in those books. There is enemies that get married to breach treaties, and there are situations that are, not what are ideal for everyone. I don't know. That was a weird sentence I put together. Whatever. But anyway, I have a couple examples of that I want to share. And one of them in particular that I recently read, which it's actually number 3 in a series, but I didn't know that when I read it, and like afterwards I can see how it was the 3rd book in the series. Like, I didn't notice it while I was reading it. And that's Torian by Eden Summers. So I actually found Eden Summers on TikTok. Yes, I do have a TikTok. It's under my same name as the Book Refuge, where I just do like quick reviews and everything. But yeah, I'm not that skilled at that, so enter at your own risk. But I found Eden Summers on there because there's a lot of authors who are on TikTok, and I just love like seeing them be able to rep their own work that way and also find out what books they're reading. And so Eden Summers, she writes a lot of this kind of book. And so this one, Torian, is a love story. It's also a captor-captive about this mob boss who he's having some issues with his father. And there's this FBI agent that is observing him that like he starts following her back. So it becomes this like cat and mouse game where they both switch up who's the cat and who's the mouse. And he actually ends up kidnapping her to have her help him with something. And so it's fantastic. Like, I love the tension of like, she's an FBI agent, but she's slowly falling for him, and they have crazy sexual tension, and it is so good. There's some dark stuff in here. We have moved on from YA, just so you know, that's happening. Then there is Hate to Want You by Alisha Rai. This is kind of a Romeo and Juliet story. It was this couple that they were together when they were young. They are from opposing mafia families where they used to be friends, and then the families had a break, and so these two can no longer be together, but they still meet up on the same day every year to have one night of sex. And then one year the girl doesn't show up, and so the hero is really forced to admit that he is more interested in this than just having a one night with her, but how can they fix the drama between their families? So there's some serious angst in this book. It wasn't my favorite because the hero is just a little bit like, okay, dude, get on to the next thing, but I definitely see why it's a favorite of a lot of people. And to be fair, I never finished the trilogy, which I know others have really liked it, but I wanted to put it on here because I think it has the vibe that we're going for. Then I want to bring up The Wedding Pact by Katee Roberts. So this is actually book 2 in the O'Malley series, and the reason that I'm starting with book 2 is that the first one, The Wedding Contract, isn't a hate to love. It is two opposing families. I don't know if they're opposing. I think they are aligning together. And so that one is more of like, strangely, a friends to lovers, because once they are like signed the marriage contract, they try to be friends. So it doesn't have the same angst. It is still angsty for other reasons, but not the relationship. Wherein we have The Wedding Pact, which is Kerrigan O'Malley, who is one of the daughters, and James O'Halloran, and he actually he's a bad boy. He's a bad boy. And I'm really bad at explaining the politics of this one, but there is a part where at the end of the first book, he actually, like, they don't know who each other is, and so they have a sexy encounter in like a closet, and then he finds out who she is because they are on opposing sides. And so he kidnaps her for a while to try to use her as leverage. But then we're starting this book and she's already back with her family. Like, he didn't keep her, but he held her hostage for a while, and she can't stop thinking about him. So it's pretty good. Katee Roberts is always pretty good. So then where should we go? Where should we go? Okay. Oh, let's do this, because then all the rest of these are fantasy after that. So the only one I have that's like not like legit enemies, but still true enemy, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, they're not in factions or things keeping them apart, but the stuff that happens in the beginning of this book makes these two enemies, and then it just goes bananas. And that's Untouchable by Sam Mariano. Yep, I brought it up. I picked this one for, like, we should, or the girl anyway, should hate him, because this book starts out with our hero, Carter Mahoney, assaulting our heroine. Like, it's a thing. It is very uncomfortable and squeamish. If you have triggers for those things, this is a dark romance, everyone. This is a dark romance. Do not enter if you don't know that. But what is amazing about it is that, number one, after this assault, Carter becomes obsessed with Zoe, and he becomes obsessed with wanting her, because he is so admired by how fierce that she is, which is so twisted. Like, it's twisted. He's so taken with how fierce that she is that he wants her. And she's like, dude, you assaulted me. Move on. Like, nothing's going to happen with us. Like, I will die before I be with you. And he just manipulates its way into her life and just, like, won't let her go. And it is one of the hottest books I've ever read. I have annotated the crap out of this thing. And it's going to be in my top books of this year. Like, there's nothing to, like, the question is, how high will it be on my list? That is what I'm trying to determine. But I love this. But to me, when I was putting together this, like, actual enemies to lovers, I think this fits on there pretty strongly as I would call him an enemy to her for what he does. Definitely a villain. Like, no lie there. But then to see how Zoe is like, you know what, I can't escape this guy. So is there a way that I can be okay with it? Is there a way that I can get something out of it too? And I think it is a powerful relationship, and a woman who is using her smarts in an amazing way. And so I really love that book. It's amazing, but you got to get through the first 3 chapters, and that is the sticky part. And I understand it if people can't. Like, I'm not telling you you need to get over it, because I understand why you wouldn't be able to, because it's bonkers. It's bonkers. It's crazy. So now we're going to go into, the rest of these are fantasy, because again, I think the way that you get to actual enemies is there needs to be something that is like making you enemies, that makes this more than just we don't get along, and then we fall in love. So another one I want to bring up, and this one as well, it doesn't have as much sexy times in it, and the romance is interesting, but I haven't brought up this book in a while, and I really love it. You know, not everything that I read is full smut. You know, sometimes I can appreciate a subtle romance, but this book has a very powerful and awesome female character who is doing so much that I just have to bring up this book. So that's An Unkindness of Magicians by Kat Howard. So yes, look at this beautiful cover. It wraps around. There's supposed to be a sequel to this book. The date has changed a lot. There's no cover, so I don't know if it's still being worked on. This completely fits as a standalone. In fact, I don't know where she's going with the sequel. Not that I don't want one, because there's plenty of books where stuff wraps up in the first one. But this book is about, it's not magical realism but it's magic in the real world. Like, it's kind of like an updated evil magic. Hogwarts is evil because you use magic in a really, like, it takes sacrifice. Like, it is painful to do magic, and it uses bits of yourself. And so there's this thing that happens every 10 or so years, or every 20 years. The powerful people in this city, they come together and they have this competition, and each house puts up a nominee, and they kind of have like a Hunger Games. People don't have to die in it, but usually people do die. And out of nowhere, this woman named, what's her name, Sydney, comes out of nowhere, and she is the most powerful candidate they've ever seen. And everyone's really scared because they don't know who she is, they don't know what her motivations are, and as they find out, they're scared because her motivations are to take it all down. But there's a lot more going on. And so the reason why it's enemies to lovers is that one of the other people in the competition is a guy that she at first aligns herself with, and then they start to have feelings for each other. And so it's like, is she going to have to kill this guy, or is he going to like bow out because he doesn't really need it that much? I don't know. But I really like this. It's a really quick read. We actually read it in my book club like last year, or maybe the very beginning of this year. It was November or December last year, and I loved it. A lot of people had mixed opinions, but I feel like this book is so interesting and intricate, and also a close-up of this cover, like the detail in this is gorgeous. So it's pretty to own just for the cover, I'll say that, but I love it. Then, Sea of Ruin, Pam Godwin, love this book. This is a like three-way enemies to lovers. This is about pirate Bennett Sharp. She's a female pirate. She actually has a husband whose name is Priest, and he is a pirate as well. But something's happened where they're not together anymore, and he's been pursuing her because he wants his wife back. And so there's a situation in the beginning where she is trying to get some information from him, and so she kidnaps him to try to get this information. But then, while she has kidnapped her husband, she gets taken by pirate hunter Ashley Cutler. Sorry, wow, I just forgot his last name. Ashley Cutler, who is a pirate hunter, and he's planning to take her back to England so that she can hang. There is crazy amounts of sexual tension, also trigger warnings for assault and other things in this book. But this has such an intense story. It has such a high risk, high reward payoff for me. And again, one of my favorite books that I've read, and it's so good. But it does have that like real hatred running through it, and Ashley just has this such anger towards Bennett, but also so much sexual tension that it's all just like, until we explode and just want to fuck each other all over the place. It's great. Another one with some awesome hate to love is A King So Cold by Ella Field. Again, look at the gorgeous cover of this book. Something about self-pub books, they just do the covers better than anyone. Like, look at both of these. Just glorious. Fantastic. Oh, this is historical romance, by the way. And this one is a fantasy romance. So this is about a queen. I think her name is Audra. I always forget what her name is. But I think her name is Audra or Audrey. whatever. She's amazing. And at the beginning of this book, we actually see her with her paramour, because she is engaged to this guy named Zad. And then she finds out that her lying, thieving, no good, dirty husband is trying to marry someone else. So then we find out her husband, the king, he has been banished and his memory wiped because he did something horrible to the queen. And he has had the audacity, even though he doesn't remember who he is, to find someone else to love and is going to get married. And so the queen rides in and she stops this wedding and throws him in her dungeon, and then decides that she isn't just going to execute him because she gave him a chance. She exiled him. Who cares that he didn't remember that he's been exiled and wouldn't know not to fall in love with someone, Audra, but whatever. She decides that she's going to make him remember what he did to her, and then she'll kill him. So we get this part of the story where he's in the dungeon and she is retelling her love story to him. And you'd think this would be boring, but it's not, because they already were kind of like enemies to lovers the first time around, because she was the princess of the winter court and he was the prince of the autumn court. I don't know, one of those. That autumn court, you know they're always trouble. And so there was already a hate to love in that. So it's like a double hate to love. Like, there was a hate to love when they were arranged to be married before, and now there's this hate to love when she's re-explaining it to him as well. And it is so powerful and so beautiful, and there's a sequel coming to this one very soon. And I'm so excited. But this book as well stands alone on its own. But a sequel, I'm really mostly excited for the sequel because I just want more. Not that I have to have it, but I want it. And then the last one I want to mention is also on my favorites of the list. So that's what I was learning. When I was picking out books for this, I realized that I really like enemies to lovers too, Melissa. I realized that I am also obsessed with such fury as a hate turning to love. And so the last one is A Heart of Blood and Ashes, because, wow, I'm also rereading this book because I'm rereading a lot of my favorites in December, and I'm very happy about it. This one is about Maddox, who is kind of a prince slash king, sort of, and he's out. These are barbarian love stories, by the way, and fantasy. This is a fantasy barbarian romance, all right? It's amazing. Look at this cover. It's amazing. And he returns from raiding to discover that his mother and father have been lured to another kingdom and then murdered. And wait, you can't go do anything about it because your father tried to rape someone while he was there, and so we killed him, and then your mother tried to stop it, and so we killed her. And Maddox is like, there's no way in hell that my parents did that. So you're lying, and I'm going to do something. But if he goes to do something, because he is kind of like a king now, but their king is run like, they have a tribal way so that they don't just attack each other and crumble. So there's like a council that has the top say. So he's like a king of his area. But if he goes against the council, they won't support him. That's the boring part of the story, is the politics. And that's actually why it took me like 3 times before I could actually read this book. But you can technically like skip to chapter 4 in this book and not be confused. In fact, the author herself, she doesn't like condone that, but when she was on the Wicked Wallflower podcast, she did say like, I'd agree that people could do that, because then when you finish it, you could go back and read the politics and you'll like understand what you're reading. So if you try to read this book or have tried to read this book and you like can't get past that point, give it another try. But anyway, but then Maddox gets told that this king who murdered his mother and father actually has a daughter. And see, in this land, the power flows through the daughter. And so if he can kidnap the daughter, he can punish the daughter and not have any consequences the way that he would if he killed the king, is basically it. However, so then we meet Vane, who is his mortal enemy from his point of view. But what he doesn't know, and what is fucking brilliant, is that Vane, she actually set this all up. Not the death of his parents. She actually asked for help from his parents, and when her father found out, he killed them. But Vane actually set it up so that she would get kidnapped by Maddox, because she wanted to get into Maddox's hands. not quite knowing what she was getting herself into, because Maddox is one pissed off warlord, but she knows that he's the one who can help her get revenge upon her father. And so, this is a hate to love, although most of the hate is from Maddox's side, unless he might push Yvonne too far, and then she might hate him as well. But this book, it's fabulous. So, whew, I'm going to stop talking now. There you go. That should be 10, 9, I think it's 10 recommendations for like true enemies to lovers. I hope this is something you're looking for, Melissa, in a wide range of sexy times. So let me know. Down below, tell me your like true enemies to lovers. Obviously, I left off a lot of paranormal off of here, mostly because I know that Melissa doesn't like some of those, and I feel like you know Cressley Cole, every one of them is enemies to lovers. So, Melissa, if you ever want to give Cressley Cole another try, all of her books are enemies to lovers. So there's that. So thank you so much for watching this, and as always, thank you to my channel members for supporting me and just trying to help out during this hard time. If you want to check out the options for channel members, I have some really great options that help you just spend more time with me. We all could use more friends during COVID. You can check out the join button down below, but don't worry, you can still join my Discord and talk to me anytime you want without being a member. I am not a snob that way, and you can find the link for that down below as well. Thank you so much for watching. I make 4 to 5 videos a week, so I'll see you in the next one. Bye!